Welcome back, institutional stakeholders and focused learners. Today, we've got a crucial explainer covering EHang's first quarter 2026 financial results, along with some really strategic operational updates. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this one because, well, we're looking at a massive pivot point for the world's leading advanced air mobility platform. Right now, we're watching EHang transition from the really rigorous, historically grueling phases of airworthiness certification straight into the very real, very complex world of actual commercial deployment. This isn't just a milestone for EHang, it's a watershed moment for the entire aerospace industry. I mean, for decades, passenger drones were basically just science fiction, right? We're locked away in testing facilities. But now, we are literally analyzing the blueprint for bringing a completely new mode of commercial transportation to the public. Just really quickly before we begin, please note that this video is for educational purposes and not financial advice. We're just here to objectively unpack the data and the strategic roadmap from their Q1 2026 reports so we can better understand the mechanics of this rapidly evolving industry. All right, let's take a quick look at the agenda. First up, the transition to commercial deployment. 2. Revenue diversification through aerial media. 3. Their Thailand sandbox global expansion. And finally, number 4, those detailed Q1 2026 financial results. Okay, jumping right into Section 1, transition to commercial deployment. Let's see how they are turning those certifications into actual flights. Now, the metrics on the ground are incredibly impressive. Since securing their Air Operator Certificates, or AOCs, back in March 2025, EHang's operating partners, EHang General Aviation and Hai Aviation, have been phenomenally busy. They've been running routine, internal, trial commercial operations just to stress test the entire system. And across over 3,000 of these trial missions, they've maintained a flawless safety record. 0 accidents, 0 violations. For institutional investors trying to evaluate risk, this is a massive de-risking milestone. When you can literally prove safety over thousands of sequential flights, you're laying the foundation for future insurance models and, frankly, cementing unshakable regulatory trust. Plus, they already have over 40 eVTOL operation sites up and running across China, proving the infrastructure is expanding right alongside the flight counts. And this slide brilliantly illustrates the comprehensive framework they're building behind the scenes. Look, it's one thing to fly a drone. It's a completely different beast to run an airline. EHang is actively preparing for public ticketed flights by building out the entire end-to-end consumer experience. We're talking ticket pricing models, integrating online and offline ticketing channels, setting up customer service, and figuring out public feedback loops. Crucially, though, they are refining their standardized operating procedures, or SOPs, hand-in-hand with the Civil Aviation Administration of China. This is a total game changer. By collaborating directly with a national regulator to literally write the operational rulebook, they're building an almost impenetrable competitive moat against rivals who are, still just tinkering with prototypes. But to scale a complex framework like that, you need highly trained people. It's like a giant puzzle. And honestly, the hidden bottleneck for advanced air mobility won't just be the hardware. It's going to be the humans on the ground running it. EHang is preemptively solving this. They've put together an experienced instructor team, dedicated training aircraft, and practice sites for the EH216S ground operating crew. With the regulator issuing framework requirements recently, EHang's training program is basically locked and loaded, just waiting on final approval. They are building a massive, highly scalable talent foundation to make sure that when operations do expand, they have the human capital to support it perfectly. Right, moving on to Section 2, revenue diversification, specifically looking at their aerial media operations. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this number, 40%. EHang's aerial media solutions made up roughly 40% of their total revenue for the first quarter. As the main passenger eVTOL business ramps up, which, as we all know, requires heavy capital investment, this non-human carrying segment is providing essential, stabilizing cash flow. It's a financial bridge. For stakeholders worrying about the typical high cash burn associated with scaling hardware tech, this is a huge sigh of relief. It proves management can monetize their underlying drone tech stack right now, today, without waiting around for the passenger market to fully mature. And the sheer scale of this media segment is wild. In Q1 alone, EHang delivered 22 aerial media shows and sold 1,000 units of their GD400 formation drones. The commercial traction here is massive, which was beautifully showcased at the China Spring Festival Gala in Hefei. They flew 16 EH216S aircraft alongside an unbelievable 22,580 formation drones. They actually set a new Guinness World Record in the process. But beyond the flash and the spectacle, the investor narrative here is what's truly profound.
Commanding over 22,000 drones in the sky at the exact same time proves the absolute robustness of EHang's autonomous command and control software. Remember, this is the exact same software backbone that's going to manage their passenger networks. It's literally a spectacular public stress test. Let's transition to Section 3, the Thailand sandbox global expansion.
So international expansion isn't just about shipping boxes overseas. It requires really specialized, localized engineering. To handle the intensely hot and humid environment in Thailand, EHang cleverly engineered some localized upgrades to the EH116S. They built a dedicated battery cooling vehicle that massively shortens turnaround times between flights, which means higher operational frequency and much better unit economics. They also added an independent cabin AC system. And if you've ever felt the midday humidity in Thailand, you know, actually, scratch that, it's not even a luxury. An independent AC is an absolute operational necessity for actual consumer adoption over there. Thailand is serving as EHang's strategic benchmark overseas under their sandbox framework. They're not just testing the waters, they are systematically building the whole ecosystem from the ground up. They've already scoped out 5 optimal vertiports and knocked out their first rigorous route survey. Now they're working directly with the Civil Aviation Authority of Thailand, the CAAT, to progressively push through commercial approvals. This really deliberate, step-by-step sandbox approach is giving them a perfectly replicable blueprint for future expansion across Southeast Asia and, honestly, the rest of the world. Finally, let's ground all these strategic updates into the hard numbers in Section 4, the Q1 2026 financial results. So, despite the seasonal dynamics that usually drag down Q1, EHang's fundamentals are looking highly stable. Total revenues hit 25.7 million RMB, driven by the delivery of 4 EH216 series units and that booming aerial media business we just talked about. But look at this. They maintained a gross margin of 62.5%. That's even a slight year-over-year increase. Let's just unpack that for a second. Holding a 62.5% margin in a nascent, hardware-heavy manufacturing industry is virtually unheard of. It points to extreme pricing power and a highly optimized supply chain right out of the gate. Liquidity is also rock solid, sitting at 1.03 billion RMB in cash and short-term investments. Because of this strong footing, management is confidently maintaining their 600 million RMB annual revenue guidance for 2026. Now, if we look at the reconciliation table provided here, the financial health becomes a lot clearer. Institutional analysts know you always have to look past the headline GAAP figures, right? Here, we start with a GAAP net loss of roughly 126.4 million RMB. But when we add back the non-cash expenses, specifically that very sizable 50.8 million RMB in share-based compensation used for talent retention, we land at an adjusted non-GAAP net loss of about 75.6 million RMB. Stripping out those non-cash accounting charges gives us a much more accurate picture of their actual operational cash burn during this super intense ramp-up phase. It proves they are managing their capital highly efficiently. And speaking of capital management, the board of directors just authorized a massive 12-month share repurchase program of up to $30 million. For an emerging tech firm, there is no stronger signal you can send to the market. It shows that management has deep, unwavering conviction in their long-term growth. By using their solid liquidity to execute a buyback of this scale, they're essentially telling the market, hey, we firmly believe our current valuation does not even come close to reflecting our fundamental intrinsic value or the commercial breakthroughs we have right around the corner. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to ponder. With airworthiness locked in, a flawless safety record in trial operations, clever localized engineering for global markets, and a profoundly strong balance sheet backing the whole shebang, how will EHang's multi-tiered network permanently shape the future of the global low-altitude economy? Because make no mistake, they are no longer just building state-of-the-art aircraft, they are building a scalable, highly profitable airline model for the 21st century. Thank you all so much for joining me to unpack these insights. Please like and subscribe for more videos.